Welcome to the bottomless pit of despair, also known as the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
And I'm Callum.
We were going to review Pet Sematary tonight, but I think I hear sirens.
Oh, man. It's a sound of the police.
Something terrible happened.
You know what
there
we
was
should
a
do?
disturbance in the force.
We should edit in Frau from Austin Powers going alarm.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We had a pretty nice, a pretty simple Pet Sematary review for you guys.
It was going to be a relaxing week.
Pretty positive one too. It was going to be a pretty positive show.
Yeah, but then
something happened.
Trigger warning for all listeners and all forms of sentient life in the galaxy.
Including midichlorians.
No.
Also, a major spoiler warning for the entire Star Wars franchise.
Yes. So, the Star Wars Episode 9 teaser trailer dropped.
It teased more hate from my heart. my black withering heart.
Did you think we couldn't get more bitter?
No, it gets worse.
Like, I wanted to let it go, but I turned to the dark side a long time ago, and it was just my burning hatred had to come forth.
Like the energy left over by a dead Sith.
Yeah.
It's pervasive.
Like, you think you can kill your hatred towards something, but it comes back as a Force ghost. So, this teaser trailer just dropped. The name of the movie has been revealed as The Rise of Skywalker. Really?
One problem.
Really?
Now, like I said before the show, when we were just talking about this, because we can't contain ourselves, obviously. Yeah. The problem with these films is it can be as simple as the names. Right? They're so vague. You look at the original series, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as A New Hope.
Yeah, no, it's just Star Wars.
Number 2, right? Empire Strikes Back. You
Yeah.
know what that means. The Empire is striking back.
Yeah.
Episode 6, rather.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi. Obviously, Luke's the Jedi and he's returning.
Returns. He brings the return of the Jedi Order, yeah.
Yeah, and so we've got these new films, and all of them have vague names because they want you to go and see it so you
Force
can find
Awakens. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Who's it awakening?
It means nothing.
Why
and
was
everything.
Why was it asleep?
Who is the Last Jedi?
Yeah, who is the Last
All these
Jedi? Is it
double-
Luke? Is it Rey? Why
All
is
these
it?
double entendres.
Yeah.
Like, just tell us what the film is.
Yeah.
Like, not what it's about, but just let us know what we're in for.
And it ties into the fact that they don't have a plan for these movies and they're just making it up as they go along.
Like, it's a fan... Like we said before, it's fan fiction.
Yeah, it is, pretty much.
And yeah, like the problem with the name in particular is that in the last movie, Luke obviously is presumed to have sort of died and become a Force ghost at the end.
Yeah.
And like in how marketing works, obviously us in the studio here, I know you're average Star Wars fans. We're not average moviegoers. We take it seriously. So we can kind of guess what's going to happen. But the average movie sort of fan, an average casual Star Wars fan, will assume the Rise of Skywalker, they think Luke, right?
Sort of,
Your average Star Wars fan, if they hear Skywalker, they think Luke.
Yeah.
So is that... it has to be on purpose. Disney has to be trying to evoke Luke from us.
Or it's a fake out and Darth Vader's coming back.
Uncle?
We'll talk about people coming back later. But, the title could be a red herring, but I wouldn't put it past J.J. Abrams to reveal Rey either as a Skywalker or, to bring Luke back from... in some way. Because I know Nathan was like, what if Luke returns from the dead, in a big FU to Last Jedi? Because that's what this movie is. It's Disney course correcting back after the divisiveness of Last Jedi.
I'm of the opinion that the only good thing Rian Johnson, otherwise known as some guy, did with The Last Jedi was make Rey a nobody.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing, because that was the idea of anyone can be a hero.
I didn't mind that.
Luke, in the original, Luke was just some dude. Originally, he wasn't Luke Skywalker, he was just a farmer.
And one of the problems with the prequels is that whole Chosen One crap.
Yeah, exactly.
That really cheapens
exactly, because he was supposed to be a farm boy, basically.
Yeah,
the old medieval tales?
Yeah.
The farm boy becomes the knight who saves the princess.
Yeah.
And that's what Rey was... I like that idea that Rey's just a nobody.
Yeah.
I don't want her to be a Skywalker. I never want... if you listen back to the other episodes, that was what we were afraid of. Some people wanted it to happen. But
look, it's J.J. Abrams, so there's all this mystery box bull crap that he does that he's just going to be like, setting it up and being like, and of course, he set all this stuff up in Force Awakens that he had no idea what he was doing with. Then he handed it off to Rian Johnson.
And then he watched The Last Jedi and he's like, I've made a huge mistake.
And he's like, I have to come back. So it's just going to be just ridiculous.
We got a message sent to us with the alternate title, The Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah. Honestly, that would be a better title. Because, I don't want to talk about the Emperor now, because...
No, later on.
We've got a lot to say about it. But then there's also, because I guess, like you were saying, Callum, like all this wordplay with the titles, like Rise of the Skywalker. Who's the Skywalker?
Is it Luke? Is it Rey?
Yeah.
Is it Kylo? Is it Daddy himself?
Yeah, and it's like, is there going to be a bullcrap like Kylo redemption arc? And it's like, well, he was the Skywalker all along. And it's
if
like,
they redeem him,
shut up.
I will be so upset.
Yeah, it's like Darth,
he had his
Darth
chance
Vader.
to be...
Darth Vader was pure evil.
Yeah,
and Luke did everything in his power to redeem him. And at the end, he got redeemed. And Force Awakens reverses that by making Kylo in awe of Darth Vader and like using him as a template. And then Last Jedi undoes that by making Kylo reject the past, even though he's clinging on to Vader's legacy. And then he undoes, Rian Johnson undoes Luke's attempt to redeem Vader by
trying to kill Kylo.
Seeing some slight darkness that might come from Kylo and then trying to murder him
because
in
that's
his sleep.
reasonable. Yeah.
And so, this is the thing with this. We're at the end of the series, and Kylo, who's already been beaten twice, it's like, well, we don't care.
Also, if Kylo had his chance to be redeemed as well.
Yeah.
So let's not waste script time on trying to redeem him when he already rejected redemption.
He rejected Han, and then Rey rejected him, and it's like this movie, this trilogy's going nowhere interesting. It's got nothing new to say, nothing new to add. So if they redeem Kylo at the end, who cares? If they kill him off, if he lives, that's ridiculous. Anything they do is going to be bad. I was thinking, what if the title is a really bullshit Dark Knight Rises thing where it's in Dark Knight Rises it's not the man who makes Batman, it's the symbol. Anyone can be behind the mask, you know?
That's a popular theory arising from the teaser.
Yeah, and it's
I think I know where you're going.
No one cared about Rey until she had a lightsaber.
Yeah, it's Nathan was telling me about the theory that because The Last Jedi talked about how crap the Jedi are and the Jedi no longer exist, Rey is going to restart a new Jedi Order or Force-sensitive people's order. Sounds very PC. And they're going to be called the Skywalkers or something.
A new sort of religious order based around the Force,
it's
or
called
non-religious order based on the Force that is not a Jedi, not a Sith. They are Skywalkers.
But it's called the Rise...
They're enlightened centrists.
Yeah. Oh, God. That's this whole series, enlightened centrism. But it's called The Rise of Skywalker, not The Rise of the Skywalkers or The Rise of the Skywalkers.
And that's where we
Rise
get the
of Skywalker. So,
and that's where I think they're trying to evoke. The name is very specific. It's The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
but we don't know who it's referring to. I personally. We know she's going to start her own sort of group of a school, but it's from what we can gather from the film. And that's
at the end of a trilogy. Where are they going to introduce new characters, or are they just going to have? You know what? The movie's going to be terrible. But if it ended with her going out to find new people to recruit, new Force-sensitive people,
that
would be an interesting ending, like a Tomorrowland ending. But yeah, it's why didn't Luke Luke's already done this.
He's a bitter old man.
And we didn't see any of it, and it's all off screen.
But as I was saying, it's unclear what sort of her school would be called. I don't think it would be called the Skywalkers. I might be wrong. But the name, to me, of the movie evokes a person.
Yeah.
We just don't know who that person is yet.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be Rey. It's gonna be by the way, Rey wasn't a nobody. Actually, she was Luke's daughter because reasons.
Well, apparently in the trailer, teaser trailer, there's a shot of a little ship flying over a sort of night sky with some mountains and a like little city in the background. It's like a really dark kind of bluish color. Apparently, I'm not sure how true this is. It's the same ship that dropped Rey off at Jakku. So her parents who
We
quote,
finally
unquote,
returned.
yeah, it's
honey.
like her parents who quote unquote abandoned her and who Kylo said were junk traders who died drunken. It's like
Palpatine gets off the ship.
hey,
Honey, honey.
hey, honey, it's me, your dad. I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
I
But
would,
yeah, it's like,
I would laugh.
It just, like we said in The Last Jedi, nothing in that movie mattered because it can all be retconned by JJ Memberberry Abrams. We got a message from Ryan Johnson. He said, "Hey, my dudes, couldn't listen live tonight. We'll just have to send you some tasty memes so you know you are in my heart. Sound the alarm. Love, Ryan."
Nice to hear from you, Ryan.
Yeah.
You still did a lot of damage to Star Wars.
Yeah, we haven't forgiven you for that, but we like your other movies.
We like your other movies, man. Just stay away from
Yeah.
Star Wars,
Stay
please.
away. So, one of the problems with this teaser trailer is that it has quite a lot of narration or voiceover
By a dead man.
by Jake Skywalker, which is what Mark Hamill refers to this version of Luke Skywalker.
Because it's not, it's not Luke.
Because
It's
he's
not
like, I can't see Luke as doing these things, so I have to think that he's Jake. So
I saw a supercut on YouTube of like all of the times that Mark
50 plus
Hamill's,
times
that Mark Hamill has expressed his displeasure.
like,
But he's just, I don't know, he's just an incel.
He's
okay?
You see the Star
anyone
Wars-
who doesn't like Star Wars is a neo-Nazi.
like Stephen Colbert on his Tonight Show. It's his identical twin cousin Jake.
Skywalker.
Yeah. So anyway, he has the voiceover. There's Rey in the desert planet. Oh, that's original. And over it, it says, "We've passed on all we know."
Now,
No.
is an interesting... Also, is an interesting...
No, yes, like, no,
Royal
you didn't.
Who's we?
Is he talking about that one weird scene with Yoda? Like, who?
So I have a feeling that this could be...
Han- like
that could
Han-
be...
I guess
that
Han
line could be delivered by a Force Ghost late in the film, and I hope...
No, but it's like, this is Luke saying,
Yeah,
we've,
I know.
we've passed on all we know.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, no,
Like,
what I'm saying
Ray hasn't learned anything.
What I'm
She
saying
already
is-
knew everything.
No. What I'm saying is that maybe a council of Force Ghosts will instruct Rey in the film.
The line
Dude,
can be
and
taken out of context.
that
yeah.
line is delivered toward the end of the film.
You know J.J. Abrams, even if that's not in the film,
Like,
he
there'll be
had that.
Qui-Gon.
He had that in a early draft.
There'll be Qui-Gon. There'll be Anakin.
Yeah,
Please,
Force
and
Ghost Party.
it'll be prequel Anakin.
Yeah, prequel Anakin.
yeah,
Space
yeah.
Ghost.
Which, if they do that, I'm gonna scream.
Maybe Padme will be there.
Oh god.
Have some respect and have it old Darth Vader, like proper Darth Vader Space Ghost.
Yeah, like, I
armor and all. That would be much
in the
better
armor.
than seeing.
No, that doesn't make sense.
That would be much better than seeing.
I'd rather that
like
than-
prequel Anakin.
They should just have a blurred out, like pixelated, like
Just show from the neck down.
yeah, like,
Just like
yeah. Have him cut off in the corner. So it's like, who's that guy? But then it says, 1,000 generations live in you now.
I don't like that.
And I'm like, why? Rey's not an important character. Like, why is this?
Are they bringing back midichlorian knowledge? Are they bringing back
Yeah.
some sort of like?
It's like, and
Luke's gonna
he
touch her head and go
he-
boop.
He
and it'd be
didn't
like,
teach. He didn't teach her anything. So
It's
she
gonna
has
be like a data transfer.
It's
isn't
like
it?
Yeah.
she has no knowledge that she's learned, except for some books she stole.
Yeah.
And it's like, but like, so yeah, like they're probably going to introduce some sort of innate midichlorian type bullcrap where it's like,
Oh, no.
she knew it all the time. That's why she was so powerful in the first film. She
She's
didn't
going-
have to be trained.
They unlocked her knowledge.
Yeah, which might tie into the Papa Palpatine.
but at this
stuff.
point, I like it's. I can kind of see why they would want to do that because how they mistreated the first two movies, they had Rey learn nothing.
Yeah.
And so she's supposed to be some sort of Force master, so they're stuck in a situation where she doesn't know anything, really, she doesn't know anything about the Force.
It's the problem with J.J. Abrams' mystery box crap.
Yeah.
It's like he should have just said straight up, she's either a Skywalker or she's
You
born...
don't play games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't play. It's like just show us, and then you can develop that idea. But leaving it to the last film to then reveal that she's actually
Like
some
also-
sort of maybe she's even an experiment that Palpatine made, or she's
That's
some sort of
interesting.
yeah. But it's like at the end,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like
if they had introduced her as Skywalker's bastard or whatever you want to call it. Like, then you can have 3 movies where she struggles what it means to have a legacy.
Yeah.
Like, then, like that's interesting. That's character building. You can explore that. But what we have is, first you didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
Then she was a nobody. Now she's a Skywalker.
Yeah.
Like,
Possibly.
you know what I mean?
But we're definitely stuck in a situation now where they're going to have to give her all of this knowledge apparently somehow.
Well,
and it's going to be a
these,
cheat.
because these movies are so poorly written. They won't give her anything. They'll just say you were ready from the beginning. You knew all along. Like, you're fine, and the movie ends. Like, there's going to be no actual explanation for it.
Or to be like, hold my lightsaber while I whisper you the secrets of the Jedi.
So yeah, Luke says 1,000 generations live in you now, but this is your fight. And it's like, why
Again, handing over the franchise to Rey?
in the
you know
last,
what I mean?
Yeah, in the last film.
Yeah.
But also Rey is a non-character,
Yeah.
so why?
Like, how about
it's
we?
like,
how about
why
we
is
don't
this her
reject?
fight?
Do we have to reject the old movies?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's like. This is your fight now. It's like
Yeah.
the next gen.
It's
It's
like
like
they're
Star Wars, the next generation.
They're retconning the original trilogy and being like, no, this is what Star Wars is now.
Yeah, forget about the
It's
originals.
like
This is the new stuff.
It's like we're giving it to the. We've ruined the old characters. The new characters are boring and
It's very
uninteresting.
conflicting, though. They want us to reject all of this that's come before,
But it's
they're
also
They're
nostalgia.
also feeding us member berries.
Exactly. Which is the problem with The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It's both wanking you off and kicking you in the balls at the same time. It's like, remember this, remember that, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
Remember this? Now here's how it sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like, it's insane. Then he says, we'll always be with you. Again, will? Like, who? Like, why is she important? What?
Again, it's we'll always be with you. You can always go and rewatch the old movies.
Yeah. That's how we interpret it. And then he said, no one's ever really gone.
Except they are.
And it's like...
Luke's touching his nose and giving her a wink. It's like, yeah.
And then you hear Emperor Palpatine laughing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, my God, J.J. Abrams, you didn't. You member berry son of a bitch. I don't believe it.
The Senate returns.
Yeah.
Look, to be honest, and maybe in this studio, it'd be an unpopular opinion, like, I'd rather this much cheese from JJ than for Ryan just to do a one draft movie. I would rather
actually,
this.
that's. Would you prefer Palpatine to be an actual bad guy, or would you prefer Palpatine to actually be maybe a good guy who was just misunderstood in the original series?
Oh, subversion.
Yeah, do you see what I mean? Like,
I feel like we are in better hands with JJ than Ryan.
yeah, but that's not saying
That's not
much.
saying a
though.
lot.
Yeah.
Like it's the best of a bad lot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, again, best in quotation marks.
It's like we say, it's like Last Jedi would have been horrible even if J.J. Abrams did it, but at least then the trilogy would be consistent because
at least
he would be able
JJ
to...
doesn't hate Star Wars.
Yeah. He just misunderstands it. So yeah, if no one's ever really gone, then nothing matters.
Yeah, exactly.
I know there are Force ghosts, but they're just kind of a one-off thing that it's like a magical, a mentor. And then at some point, like, you have to let those go. And Last Jedi, which is like kill the past, let it go, then has Yoda come back, which is okay, this is weird. Force ghosts seem to be lasting forever.
Yeah.
But also then he physically manifests his power in the real world so they can have positive effect.
Yeah.
So when we were joking that at the end of the movie there's going to be a whole Force Ghost party, like a full
like a
roster of
council.
characters, it's like...
Council's
it's like-
back,
it's
Anakin's
like,
still
are
not
they-
master.
It's like The Last Jedi's established that they can influence
They
the
can.
physical universe.
Can we please have a scene where there's like a Ghost Jedi Council and Vader's standing there and they're like, nah, man, you're not a master. Get out of here.
Still not a
we told you
master.
50 years ago it's not happening.
No,
buddy."
this is an outrage. Mace Windu's there's like, sorry, still not.
No, look,
we
and
can't.
you
we can't. Well, you'll be on the council, but you're not a Jedi
Look,
Master.
and you know Samuel L. Jackson would jump at the chance.
Look, so here's the
love
problem with Force Ghosts persisting.
Mm.
Now, again, I know I do this all the time, but in the Legends universe,
Yeah.
which has its problems but is infinitely better than what we've got now,
Yeah.
the Force Ghosts do appear for a while,
And then
but then
they-
they stop.
yeah, they
it's
fade
kind of like
out.
a lingering
Yeah.
kind of thing. So
Which is like even without the expanded universe, that's the way I interpreted it.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
otherwise you'd have
because it's like the
constant
essence remains for a while,
yeah,
but
you-
dissipates.
You'd have constant Force ghosts all the time,
Yeah,
and
they
that
would just-
doesn't
they
make
never leave.
sense. Especially when you can't have the same actors return, especially
Exactly.
like Obi-Wan. Alec Guinness passed away.
So in the books, when Luke
The
wants
only
to
reason
talk
Yoda
to,
comes back is because he's a puppet, and they can have him him return
Yeah,
after all that
exactly.
time, and it's just a crappy decision.
But
In the books, when Luke wants to talk to Vader, he does initially, but then over time he stops.
Yeah.
Because Vader's moved on.
Yeah,
So
he talks to Obi-Wan, and then like it's the start of what's the first Thrawn trilogy book? Not Heir to the Empire is the second one.
I can't remember.
Anyway,
but yeah, no, I know, yeah,
at the start of the first one, he's talking. He has a dream, or it's either him or Leia has a dream about Obi-Wan. It must be him. Leia wouldn't make sense, but she has a dream as well. Anyway,
Yeah,
I haven't read it in a long time. But and he's like, I'm just like, this is it, like
Yeah.
a goodbye, like,
Yeah.
and then he faded away, and then
I remember
and
that.
then Luke's like felt him for the last time or something.
Yeah. So
Like-
who haven't we seen Force Ghosts from? Because there's a
Qui-Gon.
chance. Because there's a chance they
Oh,
might be
man.
brought back in this movie.
There was that deleted scene in Revenge of the Sith where Qui-Gon contacts Obi-Wan as a Force ghost.
Because, like, could you imagine if we see... Because, like, so far, who are the characters that have been brought back from the dead? We've got Darth Sidious? Darth Maul?
Darth Maul,
And now...
like brought back physically or as Force ghost?
Physically. Darth Maul and Palpatine, 100%, apparently.
Well, Palpatine, we don't know for sure.
We don't know for sure, but we can assume.
Yeah,
Also, one interesting thing to note is that in again Legends, because that's the only thing we have to compare it to.
yeah,
In the Legends, dead Sith can affect the real world, but that's only because of their evil power.
yeah.
That's
See,
like good guy Jedi
Yeah.
don't do that. That's a Sith thing. That's because the lingering energy
Yeah.
manifests. It doesn't like a light side ghost, for example,
Yeah.
will be the person and it will say things and then it will move on.
Yeah.
Whereas a Sith, like Palpatine, for example, in this one, the Return of Palpatine could be his negative energy manifesting, and then it can cast like Force lightning and stuff like that.
Oh, God,
But
I hate everything about
I want
that.
Liam Neeson to return as a Jedi who has a very particular set of skills.
Oh man.
And he's, like, hunting down the Sith.
Now we only have a limited amount of time, so we should move on to what the rest of the trailer has to offer.
So it's on the opening portion of the teaser is on a desert planet. Whether it's Jakku or Tatooine, we don't know.
cares?
Either one, I don't want to see ever again. We've seen enough of Tatooine, and Jakku is just
And
Tatooine
sand
again.
gets everywhere.
Yeah, I don't like sand. It's too sandy. Like, it's the way people complain about The Force Awakens being too much like the original Star Wars, the way Last Jedi rejects the past, quote unquote, but has similarities to Empire Strikes Back. This movie, if it takes place partially on a desert planet, it's like they're doing the same thing as Return of the Jedi, where they return to the desert planet from the first movie. It's just...
Can we talk about
it's
how...
it's like they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And also, we know
there's
how
there's also a desert skiff, like a skiff speeder thing that looks like the Jabba skiff, the sail barge kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like they're doing Return of the Jedi again.
They are.
It's like Abrams is like, I think he's...
He can't help
he
himself.
can't help himself. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
That's like a slap in the face when you said that. I had a physical...
Abrams probably actually got that tattooed on him after George Lucas said it. He's like,
that was
genius.
It smells like a physical slap.
Yeah.
I forgot about that line.
But yeah, like the fact that J.J. Abrams is... Like, all his films, not just the Star Wars films, are about nostalgia and doing the same things that have already been done. So, like, there was an interview I saw with J.J. Abrams, how he's like, people complain The Force Awakens is too similar to the original Star Wars. He's like, we didn't intend that at all. I'm like, yeah, sure. And then he's like, but, and in this Rise of Skywalker?
The Rise of
Skywalker. He's like, in this one, it's like, yeah, we don't want to retread old ground. But he's like, but also we're now ending the saga of 9 movies.
No, you're ending this. You're ending 3 films.
Yeah.
You're not ending 9.
So he's like, he's saying in a roundabout way, you didn't like how we remade the original Star Wars as The Force Awakens? Well, we're going to remake Return of the Jedi or all the other movies in this film as well, but we're going to pretend like we're not.
If this movie is the end of the Skywalker saga, and Rey is a Skywalker, that means she's going to die. at the end of
No,
this film.
it could just be like I said, like at the end of the film, she takes up the mantle of the last Jedi.
Yeah, but they can always
and she
threaten
goes
us
off
with further films
and
if she's
she-
alive.
No,
'cause
but
the
like
Skywalker saga.
like we're gonna do a 2-hour episode. I think we have to go off air at the end of the hour and do another hour. But so basically, Kathleen Kennedy has said that this is the end of the Skywalker saga from Episode 1 to Episode 9. This is where it ends. Then all films after this will be either self-contained spin-off movies or will be part of another trilogy that takes place in a different time, whether in the past or the future, with different characters, non-Skywalker characters or related characters. How true that is, I don't know.
And
But
keep in mind,
that's what I'm saying.
they can always change their minds.
There's no way they're going to kill Rey because, Disney, and because they want to sell toys and because they don't want to frighten little girls who may be interested in this dull, boring character. But like I said, they'll just end it with Rey, either going off to recruit Jedi or, riding away into the sunset after defeating the evil First Order, even though that really doesn't mean anything anymore. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, I know. I understand.
Like they'll end the movie with a finality of 9 movies with a lot of nostalgia jerking. That's how they do it. But Rey's and Finn and all that, it'll just be a happy Return of the Jedi style party at the end, and then one of them will fly off in the sky.
But just as the Return of the Jedi sort of rounded off the trilogy, just because they round off this trilogy doesn't mean they can't revisit it when they change their mind.
Yeah, exactly. That's true too. And no doubt they'll probably do some sort of spin-off of this, even though like a Rey cartoon or something. They're going to revisit it. But there's no way of being sure, but it looks like the desert planet seems to be the setting for the finale of the film and not the opening of the film, probably because Rey has her broken lightsaber, which I assume is going to be repaired at some point in the film. Also, there was a behind-the-scenes photo of the last day of shooting with Oscar Isaac, John Boyega, and Daisy Ridley hugging, and the final, last shot of Star Wars, and that they're in the same costumes and in the same desert setting as you see in the trailer. So I think the movie's going to be about Rey repairing the lightsaber and then confronting Kylo in the TIE Fighter, which is the opening part of the teaser. So that looks like that might be the climax. The climax of the film, her confronting Kylo in the desert and doing mad backflips, bruh.
But do they always shoot movies in order?
That's true. Yeah, no, they
Just
don't.
because that's the last day of filming doesn't mean that's the last or the last sort of
That's
area.
True. But just from there's a rumor that the reason they go to the Death Star wreckage is to get a new kyber crystal for the lightsaber
sense.
repairing. So it's like the first part of the movie is going to be her going on adventure.
Doesn't make sense. They go to the Death Star, but it makes
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Like so many problems. Then we also see a shot of. I'm just going through my dot points, so you guys interject at any point. These notes have no order.
Just like the new Star Wars movies.
The new Star Wars movies. So I'm just going to go through them all, and we'll get to stuff when we get to it. So we see Kylo fighting a cloaked figure in a forest.
Oh, spoopy.
Apparently, I didn't see this myself, but apparently if you zoom in on Kylo's face, he doesn't have the scar, so this might be a flashback. Why we're seeing this now, I don't know why. Where are the Knights of Ren? I don't think the guy...
What Knights of Ren?
They're on the poster, but they're not in the movie.
Maybe it's going to be a spin-off franchise for the Disney Plus service.
Knights of Ren TV show. I wouldn't put it past them. At this point, anything can happen. It's so bad. The axe, Kylo kills this guy wielding an axe. The axe wielder seems to be wearing robes and carrying an axe. So it's like, how we were talking about when the poster leaked. about the character with the bow and arrow. It's like, this doesn't fit into Star Wars. It's like, maybe Kylo goes to a planet and there's like a slightly less advanced civilization, like Nathan was talking about, and when we talked about the poster, and that's why they all have axes and shaggy robes. But yeah, like this is all speculation. But I'm like, when a movie series is this bad and is mishandled to the last possible moment in the trilogy, it's like, I don't like anything we see from this movie is like, why are they doing this now? Especially if this is a flashback, like, why now? The movie's gonna have to be at least half flashbacks to explain anything. Or more than likely, because they're so poorly written,
It'll just guess.
It'll just be like,
read the book.
I was gonna say, or just tell them to read the books they release.
Yeah.
So just have a movie that makes no sense and be like, oh yeah, you want to understand it?
Yeah,
read the book.
That's basically what Force Awakens is. It makes zero sense, and then someone's like, oh well, in the book, those
poor novelists having to like tie everything together.
Yeah. And then
we see Lando.
No, before that. We see Kylo. So when we saw the poster, we were like, this is so bad, there's no way it's real. But also, it's so bad, it's probably real. And
Did we have a good laugh?
One of the things on the poster is Kylo has his helmet on and it has like cracks in it and it's been repaired.
And like really obvious repairs.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm like, I think it's a like, fan poster and they just photoshopped that in.
It's what's that Japanese custom where you repair broken sort of...
yeah.
porcelain or ceramic goods, but and you use fill in gold sort of paste or like solution, cement sort of. So it's like I forget what the word is, but it means like it's more beautiful because of
is it wabi sabi or
something like that. Is that what this is with his helmet? He's like, I'm not going to do a good. We're in the future, man. He can repair the helmet if he wants.
The whole first part of the movie is going to be Rey repairing her lightsaber and Kylo repairing his helmet in like beautiful Asian style montages, with what do you call it, like shamisen? What's that Japanese guitar music?
Yeah,
you know?
like he could repair that helmet and make it look like new if he wanted, but he's having it look a little bit.
Or he could get a cool new helmet. I don't know. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is because that and the fact that Lando returns wearing the yellow shirt. It's
because
like,
kids would know it's Lando if it wasn't like, the same outfit in that
terrible poster. That terrible poster looks like it was real.
Yeah, and we were right.
Oh my god!
We bring you the scoops.
Like, we make a lot of jokes about how it's terrible, so it must be real.
But here we are.
But then they prove us right. It's every time we complain about something, Disney then double downs on.
Why? I don't understand. Like they must think people are so dumb. They
just don't care.
No, that's like, okay, so we want Billy D. Williams to come back, but people don't care about old Star Wars, so we need to make him look like he's from Solo.
Yeah.
Like, oh, come on. Like the dude wears the same outfit he did how many years ago?
Like, even, like, why is he wearing the same yellow shirt? It doesn't make any sense.
He didn't wear that shirt in the originals. Yeah. Did he suddenly change his... Oh, it's like, I remember berries are back in fashion. I better be wearing my yellows.
You know, J.J. Abrams probably loved Solo because it was all member berries. So he's like, well, I'm going to bring back the yellow shirt. Remember the yellow shirt?
Remember Solo? It was only a couple years ago. I remember. Last year, wasn't it?
What year?
I don't know.
In terms of Star Wars movies, I've lost track.
It's 2019. So
yeah, it was last year, yeah.
Do you remember Solo?
Remember.
God.
We see C-3PO on the skiff in that desert, like I mentioned. I'm like, this just ties it more into Return of the Jedi, where C-3PO gets picked up by the skiff at the end of the Jabba the Hutt sequence. But it's like, you know how C-3PO was carrying Chewie's bowcaster in the poster, and we were like, surely that's not real. That's way out of character. That's really dumb. But it's like, I just saw that bit where he's on the skiff and all the characters are there, and I'm just like, it's going to happen. You know, in the movie, someone's gonna throw it to him, or he's gonna pick it up to defend himself, and they're gonna make a joke about it.
And he's gonna fire it and fall over.
Yeah,
it's like,
oh dear. And this is kind of.
And R2's gonna say something rude.
Was R2 in the trailer at all?
Not that I saw.
He wasn't in the poster.
It's all about BB-8 and the new droid.
His new little buddy D-O.
And who? Wait, I forgot about. I must.
D-O is a megaphone.
D-O is a new little wheel bot
It's a wheel and a
that's
megaphone.
being introduced.
That's
Because
weird.
Yeah, it's a wheel.
like-
it's a wheel and the Pixar lamp.
It's like, this is, Disney is $1 billion company. This is $1 billion franchise.
gotta sell them toys.
What sells innovation more than a wheel and a megaphone
I
taped
feel like,
together?
I feel like, robots looked like that in the original Star Wars because they didn't have CG.
No, but they didn't.
They
though.
didn't.
No, what I mean is like R2 wasn't particularly complicated.
Yeah, but it's
but he
like
looked
he had
more
a very
interesting.
specific design.
Yeah.
And BB-8 is sort of like a dumb redesign. but you
BB-8's
can
lazy.
sort of,
BB-8's a basketball,
you can
man.
sort of accept it.
Yeah.
But this Dio is it's a wheel with a lamp on
Like,
top.
what I mean is, why are they doing this when they
And
can do
again,
better?
why are they introducing a new little buddy for BB-8? What is the point? You've got R2, you've got BB-8. BB-8's the new R2. Why do you need Dio? Like, everything about this is mishandled. And it kind of ties into... no, maybe we'll talk about that later, but how these movies are just slapstick comedies now.
Yeah, definitely.
So then we see the Death Star, or at least part of the Death
Oh
Star,
my
like
God,
wreckage on a planet.
You mean the same Death Star that was completely vaporized
Yeah.
in space?
So what planet is this? If it's not,
Was this a Death Star destroyed after
so the planet there,
original series?
the planet. So in Star Wars, it's been quite well established that all planets are one environment, whether you like it or not. Like, it's established canon. So we see Rey and friends on this kind of grassy, overcast planet next to the ocean. It definitely doesn't look like Endor at all. So if it's the second Death Star, why is it it crashed on a nearby planet? They're probably just going to be like, it's a new planet, but it was nearby. It doesn't look like Yavin 4 or that forest moon there.
Nothing makes sense.
Whether it's the first Death Star or the second Death Star, we don't need the Death Star back again. No. Especially, it makes zero sense that a huge chunk. It's like the whole.
It's like
front,
the bottom
like
base plate.
It's
or
like
something.
the weapons dish, like skirting of it, like the whole thing. Like, there's no way you can say that.
It just fell off.
Yeah, piece of wreckage was hidden in the blinding light of the explosion. Like, it's clearly vaporized. There might be a few small pieces, I'll give you that.
They're not half a Death
And
Star.
those small pieces might be relatively quite big because of how big the Death Star was. But it's like literally half the Death Star. It's ridiculous.
It's massive. Yeah, it's the size of a moon,
There's no
basically.
way that could have survived. Now, this is just, again, J.J. Abrams' typical crap, being like, remember the Death Star. I wouldn't put it past him being like, there was a third secret Death Star the whole time. This is also from the guy who brought us the Starkiller base. So,
And people, by the way, we should also, the community also believes, I was on Reddit just before, there's some talk that it could be the Sun Crusher, which is a Legends.
yeah, I don't think it would be. That doesn't really make any sense, especially because it looks exactly like the Death Star.
It's not the Sun Crusher.
If it was the Sun Crusher,
Because Sun Crusher's a lot smaller.
I mean, I say they'd make it look different if it was a Sun Crusher, but they wouldn't. The TIE Fighters look the same. The Stormtroopers look the same. Like, these movies are just cash grabs. So the Death Star has now appeared in Rogue One, the original Star Wars. Death Star 2 was in the Return of the Jedi. Force Awakens had Starkiller Base. And now if Rise of Skywalker has the wreckage of one of the Death Stars, plus there's the cameo of the first Death Star at the end of Revenge of the Sith. And plus there's the Dreadnought, with the big laser gun in Last Jedi. This series is so obsessed with the
with space weapons.
with the giant space weapon.
Just let it go. It's Disney, let it go.
And it's like, the Legends canon did have that problem with the Sun
bad.
Crusher and several other...
Bad, yeah.
But it's like, that was one of the negative things about the Legends. And it's like, if they're doing it now, like, it's just...
Not learning the lessons of the past.
Yeah, again. Luke's lightsaber, it appears that Rey has just repaired Luke's lightsaber.
That's how you know she's a Jedi. Because,
Yeah.
do you remember when
That's
Last
how you know
Jedi
she's
came out?
Skywalker.
That's how
she's got the Skywalker lightsaber.
when Last Jedi came
which
out,
was used to kill the young
I
ones.
referenced I referenced a webcomic I saw where someone was like, I saw the new Star Wars movie. I know it was Star Wars because there was laser guns. I'm like, I know she's a Jedi because she has a lightsaber.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of, it focuses on it. It's like, you remember Rey?
Yeah.
Remember she's a Jedi, here's a lightsaber. So remember, she's a Jedi.
Yeah. And cool backflips.
And cool, force jumps.
Yeah, TIE fighters.
She does backflips because she's a Jedi, and that's what they do. They do backflips because that's what we think Star Wars is.
Yeah.
Like the prequel problems, when they fight, it's all kind of like flipping around and Star Wars, like lightsaber battles and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like one of the major problems with The Force Awakens, and it has many, is that they brought back Luke's lightsaber out of nowhere for just out of nostalgia jerk-off reasons. It makes no sense. It was never explained. And we're now in the third movie, and it's like the lightsaber was cut in half in Last Jedi, but it's like they're still keeping it around. She's going to repair it. She's going to use it. It's like they didn't even try to give her her own lightsaber.
No.
Like, Rey's supposed to be the new character taking over taking over the trilogy, taking over the franchise. It's like they didn't even try to make her different.
Well, keep in mind, she wasn't trained.
Exactly.
So the building of the lightsaber is traditionally part of the training.
It's exactly, and that's what's one of the great things about Return of the Jedi is like Luke makes his new lightsaber. It's awesome, and even Darth Vader says like, you know, your training's complete now. You've constructed a new lightsaber.
Yeah.
So you know, again, it's the third movie in the trilogy. Maybe they're gonna do a switcheroo where it's like, it's the lightsaber gets destroyed again, and she makes a new one. But knowing J.J. Abrams, it's just like he's going to bring it back and keep it around, and they're probably not going to explain how it somehow rematerialized after Luke's hand getting cut off and it falling into clouds, falling into Bespin. So, but yeah, it's just really lazy, and it's probably just to sell toys, and it's also probably just so Disney can say, well, this is the Skywalker legacy lightsaber that started in even though God, like I'm gonna have a stroke or something, and he can like loses a lightsaber or gets a lightsaber destroyed like 7 times in Attack of the Clones. So I can't even remember at what point he gets his new lightsaber, which Obi-Wan takes from him on.
I just want to point out, you're assuming that the people who make these movies care.
Exactly, and this is the problem. Is like I'm thinking of it.
You're doing a deep dive into the history of the lightsabers. They don't care, man.
I'm thinking of it in a logical way. It's like, well, we started here, we must end here. But Lucas wasn't thinking about that, and Abrams wasn't thinking about that, and Rian Johnson definitely wasn't thinking about that. And Kathleen,
he was just like, no.
And Kathleen Kennedy has no idea what's going on. So it's just lazy and. But yeah, like this ties into, Rey has Luke's lightsaber. She has Han's ship. She has Han's friends, Chewie and Lando. Like she's just a stand-in for the original trilogy characters. Like she's not a character of her own. She doesn't do anything new. She doesn't learn anything. She's just there. She knows everything already. She's powerful.
But James,
she doesn't struggle.
She's so cool, man. The backflip. You didn't see the lightsaber. What are you talking about?
She's basically Luke. The movies could have been a lot better if they got rid of Rey altogether and just had Luke.
This is the problem. Neckbeards like you refuse to acknowledge how cool she is.
So I'll go back to my parents' basement.
Yeah, you do that because she's cool. She backflips. She moves rocks. What more do you want? That's Star Wars.
They do. There is a shot of Finn in the desert carrying Rey's staff. Why he's got it now, I don't know. Maybe she can put the lightsaber on top of the staff, so she has like a lightsaber pike. At least that's like she still technically has the Skywalker lightsaber, but it's like a spear now, and so it's a little bit different. It's dumb, and I hate it.
And
I'd rather have a
but
double
at this point,
that's
I'm
a recipe to lose your saber, man.
At this point, I'm like anything would be better than what we got. Yeah, so this definitely feels like Disney backpedaling, with the title, Rise of Skywalker, and just, bringing Palpatine back, which we'll get to very soon. But, yeah, it just seems like Disney and J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy are really even if internally in the company they liked The Last Jedi, they realized that there was a divisiveness to it and a backlash to it. And so now they're definitely repping the return of Skywalker, you know, whether Luke comes back or not, which he probably won't. He'll definitely come back as a Force ghost for 100%. But you know what I mean? Like, they're doubling down on this is Star Wars again, which is kind of what Force Awakens did, where it's like, you didn't like the prequels, don't worry.
You didn't like Last Jedi, here's JJ again.
It's exactly. So it's JJ rebooted Star Wars after the prequels ruined it, and that was a mistake. Last Jedi reboots Force Awakens, that was a mistake. Now J.J. Abrams has to come back and reboot the reboot of his movie, which is Last Jedi. Like, it's just a complete mess. Also, J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy have been really repping Lucas, like saying George Lucas came in and talked to us about the script, you know. And
is that a good thing?
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I'm like,
but it's
doesn't fill me with confidence.
It's their piss weak attempt to say, like, look, fans of Star Wars, like, we're getting the original guy back. Don't worry, you know, right? That Rian Johnson guy, he's not around for this.
The bad man's gone.
Yeah, don't worry, the bad man can't hurt you anymore. And then they gave him his own trilogy. But yeah, so at the end of the trailer, we hear Palpatine laugh after Luke says, "Nobody's ever really gone."
Do you on the nose? Yeah. Do you remember Palpatine?
Remember Papa Palpa? Like,
I remember.
Oh God, just kill me now. That's the point where I almost put a gun in my mouth. I was just like, oh my God. This could.
Well, lucky we have strong gun control.
Yeah, this is a major reason why. But this could be a red herring, like the title. But
it's not.
But more than likely,
you know what would be hilarious?
Yeah.
If there's a Force ghost battle between dead Luke and dead Palpatine, and they're like see-through flipping around doing their like prequel level kind of like acrobatics.
Callum just made it even worse.
But you know that might happen, right?
I didn't think of that now.
There might be a whole bunch of dead Sith and dead Jedi facing off on the Death Star.
That's so depressing. Oh man,
like a Jedi and Sith graveyard, like they're fighting it off,
like Pet Cemetery,
and Yoda's throwing lightning everywhere.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
But Ian McDiarmid, who
and Darth Vader's like, stop it.
Ian McDiarmid, who plays the Emperor, he's in the cast list, and at Star Wars Celebration, he came out and when the trailer played, so he's at least partially in the movie in some way, shape, or form.
He better look like an orangutan. That's all I'll say.
That's not Ian McDiarmid. Then that's someone else. But
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, with the
original,
the googly eyes makeup.
Yeah.
That's my. You know, I only watched the original, so that's my version of Empire Strikes Back Palpatine. But he is in Return of the Jedi, so he's also technically a real Palpatine. But I think that's actually a problem that you bring up, is the way they reinserted him into Empire Strikes Back, you know, Lucas's terrible special editions. But it's like his character in the prequels has become a meme.
Yes.
You know, Palpatine has become a meme. Like, he's a joke. He's Sheev, he's Palpy, you know. He's not a real character anymore. He's the guy in Return of the Jedi.
I am the Senate.
He's the guy. Yeah, he's the Senate. He's the guy in Revenge of the Sith who throws chairs at Yoda and does the spin attack with his lightsaber and goes ugh, and goes unlimited power. Like, it's a joke. Like, those movies are terrible, but people have embraced them as these so bad they're good movies.
Like that, yeah.
And I think, you know, after 10 years of those memes, people have now forgotten the so bad they're good and just rely on the good part of it.
We should put the
And
only
I think
good one.
That's wrong. That's just straight up wrong.
The only good
Those
prequel
movies
movie,
are bad.
The only good prequel movie is, what is it?
Backstroke
of the West. That's the only good one. Go on YouTube and look up Star Wars Backstroke of the West.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
But yeah, like
I'm sorry to derail.
No, that's all right. But yeah, like Sheev coming back is just, you know, another J.J. Abrams attempt at trying to repair this broken, dead franchise and trying to reunite the broken fandom. You know, people who love the prequels love Sheev. The people who love the original trilogy love Emperor Palpatine. Like,
I don't want to feel bad for J.J.
No, I don't.
But can you imagine being the person who has to try and make an ending to this complete crap fest?
I partially blame him for
Yeah.
leaving.
Yeah.
I partially blame him for
making
not
Force Awakens?
Well, I definitely blame him for that, but I partially blame him for not saying, here is my outline, writing into the contract that it must be followed even if I'm not directing. Because I'm pretty sure he was a producer on Last Jedi. Like, he would have had a small... He wouldn't have been involved in any way, but he had a small amount of respect and influence.
From what I understand, there was maybe a little bit too much...
This all comes down to Kathleen Kennedy's mismanagement.
Yeah, and I feel like if JJ was stronger about this, it might have been a little different. But he was too respectful of Rian Johnson
This is a problem in Hollywood, and Mark Hamill being diplomatic about the mishandling of Luke. Like, if something's bad, you just got to come out and say it, because otherwise we're going to spend 10, 15, 20, 50 years just reliving these nightmares.
They care so little that they let Rian Johnson write one draft and they filmed it. So that's my point. Like, they put so much faith in one dude to write one script. So what I'm saying is, imagine being the guy who has to cap this off.
Yeah.
He's like, you've got these two awful movies, and now you have to finish it, regardless of whether you were a part of the problem or not.
It's like he created a lot of these problems when he made Force Awakens and the mystery box crap, and he's setting things up he clearly had no idea about. And, Rian Johnson made it even worse by not fixing those things.
The problem with Rian Johnson is it seems like there's an environment within Disney when they brought this franchise back where they're like, look, we'll let JJ do what he wants, that's fine, and then he doesn't want to do it, so we'll get Rian Johnson in. And they took an attitude of, we're just going to let him handle it. No, not that much accountability.
Yeah.
Just like, he's the director, he's writing it, we'll just let him handle it. Like, I know we often say there's too much studio interference.
That would have been fine if it was the first movie in the new trilogy.
Yeah.
Because then he could set up what he was going for. But what he's going for in The Last Jedi doesn't make sense for a middle film.
No, and I'm not arguing for studio interference, but then there should have been some oversight.
There has to be some oversight, even if it's just structure or
even if it was just like
a vague arc,
Even if there was a couple more writers to be like, if he had to work with a couple more people to have creative input.
Yeah.
Or he had to work with JJ.
No. I'm saying
JJ sort of
like some serious Hollywood writers whose job it is to kind of like those people who come in to finish scripts.
Yeah, you shouldn't be allowed. He should never have been allowed to take over the reins of the trilogy and just decide that he'll write whatever he wants.
Even though it's clear they didn't have a course, he did push it even further.
He pushed it off.
Yeah, like the reason we have such a bad movie in The Rise of Skywalker is because Rian Johnson did such a terrible thing with The Last Jedi.
Look, I'm not saying JJ
Force
Awakens was the problem.
My point is
it all goes back to
the direction that Rian Johnson took it in. Yeah, you kind of have to follow that to some degree.
We haven't seen Rise of Skywalker. This is just our impressions of the
speculation based on the teaser.
But what I was saying to Callum and Nathan before we actually went on air is, like, Disney has mishandled Star Wars so poorly that just any news that comes out about it explodes the possibilities of how much more badly and what direction they're going to go in. If they clearly didn't know what direction they were going in with Force Awakens, if they clearly let Rian Johnson do whatever the hell he wanted and take Star Wars in a completely new direction that was directly in contrast to Force Awakens, then they clearly don't know how to end not only the trilogy but the 9-movie saga.
Yep.
And that is, like, insane. And it's why we're discussing all these possibilities and all these rumors and all these theories, is because it's like, how did they let it get to this point? How are they going to finish it off? How are we going to reconcile with 9 movies and 42 years of Star Wars coming to the sickest and saddest and most disappointing end?
It's for me, it's kind of simple. I acknowledge that more films physically exist.
You know what they should have called this movie instead of Rise of Skywalker? Requiem for a Star Wars. Just like the death,
Look, I understand that these movies physically exist. They're in mainstream, they're popular culture. But as far as I'm concerned, they're not for me.
Yeah.
I will stick to my original saga.
What did I say to you guys before we went on there? I said, I understand there are people who like the new movies and the prequels, and that's fine. I'm not saying you can't like them.
Enjoy
them. I'm happy for you. But as us being, you know, big Star Wars fans, it's like these movies are terrible, and they're completely mishandling what Star Wars should be. But it comes into the fact that Disney is doubling down on these problems, and they're coming out and attacking people who criticize these new movies. And some of these people are toxic. That part of the fandom does exist. But a lot of these people are just sad that these terrible films are allowed to continue in this fashion that's like, oh no, these movies are actually great.
And for some reason, it's almost kind of taboo to deconstruct a story.
Yeah,
like, you can't really. If I go to someone who loves the movies and I say, well, how do you reconcile this plot hole, or do you think this was? How can you tell me with a straight face this was handled correctly? Yeah. They'll just be like, either I don't understand Star Wars.
There's a lot of mental gymnastics in defending the new Star Wars.
It's either you don't understand Star Wars, because it rhymes, or you're like kind of like you're a if you have a problem with Rose.
Yeah,
but you're a sexist,
exactly, or
you're a racist, or whatever. It's like you can't. There's a culture divide there.
Exactly. We criticize the films on the merits of how they were made, not on the races of the actors or the genders.
I mean, who cares about that?
Yeah, who cares? Like
a lot of they say art is subjective, and that's true. A lot of art is subjective, but these movies have definitive objective problems.
Definitely.
And we sit here criticizing, this trailer for over an hour,
and we've got another hour to come.
And we criticize specific aspects of the trailer and why they're bad. We don't just say, "Oh, it's bad because I don't like the lady."
Yeah. So we have to sign off now. Just to finish my Palpatine point, because we got off track a bit there. But yeah, again, it's J.J. Abrams, so I wouldn't be surprised if he actually has Palpatine return in some way, shape, or form. But it's also possible that this is just a hologram that Rey finds on the Death Star wreckage. It just pops to life and says "Execute Order 66," or with some new added lines or something. And she's like,
remember.
She's like, "Oh, the Jedi were wiped out, but I'm gonna recreate the Jedi and move forward." Just dumb crap like that. But also Actually, we are out of time, but we'll continue this thought of the Palpatine's involvement in the new Star Wars movie in the next hour.
In the extended.
So we are going to sign off the live portion of the show on the radio, and we're going to stay in the studio and record off air, and then upload the full podcast online. So
if you want to listen to more whinging,
download
the podcast.
If you're still with us, which I don't think anyone is, but most people don't listen live. But if there is anyone listening live, be sure to download the podcast to experience the full discussion that we have behind the closed doors.
Up next is Maddie J with Car Talk, and also please listen to Sunrise Arcade. Saturday mornings.
We'll do a full sign off in the podcast extended version. So we won't sign off. We'll just say thanks for listening, and be sure to download the podcast. See you soon.
We were talking about our boy Palpatine.
Yeah, we're back. So to finish my point about old Papa Palpa, so in the original trilogy, Palpatine's, I guess, the big bad. He's not the main physical force all the way, but
the representation of evil.
Yeah, he's like the big boss. In the prequel trilogy, he's the puppet master. He's behind the scenes until he reveals himself at the end as the true villain. In the new movies, I guess Snoke was supposed to be the new emperor, which is a really
Ryan
lazy.
Johnson sort of that.
Yeah, which is a really
subverted my expectations.
But again, it comes from J.J. Abrams' problems of he didn't know what he was doing, or maybe he did.
But to be fair, let's just say you're J.J. Abrams. Do you expect your successor to immediately kill off your bad guy?
Yeah.
To be fair, that's true. There's a lot that JJ might have wanted to do with his characters that he didn't get to do because Ryan Johnson shat all over it.
Which is interesting because we were just talking about, Hollywood politeness and double talk, and how, I want to know J.J. Abrams' true feelings towards Last Jedi.
We'll never know. He's too polite.
Yeah, and I'm gonna even assume he might have signed an NDA,
Yeah.
In terms of
Feelings.
in terms of what his original outline was.
Yeah.
So
I would have.
because if Kathleen Kennedy let Rian Johnson come in with a clean slate, then his ideas for where the series was going, if those ideas do exist, because of his mystery box crap, and now that Johnson threw all that out and J.J. Abrams is coming back in and has to kind of pick up the pieces, it's like we'll probably never truly know where it was going and where it was gonna end up.
We won't know where the story was going, but we can make a reasonable guess, an educated guess that J.J. wasn't happy with where Ryan was taking it.
But it's like I would love to hear J.J. Abrams' thoughts on it, and even like I said, even though his original version of the 3-movie trilogy would have been terrible, at least it would have been cohesive.
Yeah.
And it would
it wouldn't have subverted.
He would have been able to play out his version of the story.
I'd be interested in seeing his version of Luke as opposed to Rian
Oh
Johnson,
yeah, definitely, because you know his version of Luke would have been very
more heroic.
Yeah.
As opposed to Rian Johnson's kind of Jedi suck version of Luke, like they're bad.
That's probably the one thing about Abrams that you can say is good, is that he believed, maybe he didn't,
he kept the characters' essences.
Yeah, but I mean, this then comes back to the problem of The Force Awakens sidelining Luke to not being in the movie until the last shot. Like that's a huge mistake. That I think is one of the reasons why Last Jedi is the way it is because Rian Johnson had the ability to just write the character any way he wanted.
As I said before,
because he ignored the original movies. But
as I said before, Rey shouldn't have existed. It should have just been Luke.
No, there should definitely have been a younger character taking up the mantle. But Rey, let's call her Rey, that version should have been a well-written, well-developed character who learns from Luke and takes over the mantle. Much in the way that young Creed takes over from his father and Rocky, it's that,
as opposed to being a Mary Sue.
In the same way that Daniel takes over from Mr. Miyagi, like it's a tried and true traditional storytelling trope of the master handing down the.
And I think
and Force Awakens squandered that, and Last Jedi just shat all over it.
Just because...
And now because we're not on air, we can fucking swear. So fuck you, J.J. Abrams, and fuck you, Rian Johnson, and fuck you, Kathleen Kennedy.
I will say, though, I still think that having Luke as one of the main characters throughout the whole movie would have been a major positive. Like, we would have got that... we would have got that Obi-Wan... We should have had that Obi-Wan sort of...
Yeah, well, exactly.
Make Luke a supporting character... Not like the prime protagonist.
Force Awakens should have been Creed or Karate Kid. It should have been Luke as the older Obi-Wan wise master and Rey as the young apprentice character.
You were saying how...
It writes itself! How many times do we have to say this?
You were saying how
apparently when they were writing Force Awakens, they're like, we don't know how to fit Luke in. It's too hard. Let's just push him to the... It writes itself!
He's Obi-Wan.
He's just Obi-Wan. You remade the original Star Wars as Force Awakens, and yet you gave the mentor role to Han. Why?
Look, I was gonna bump in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were saying how the storytelling, they're tried and tested storytelling mechanics, if you want to call it that. That doesn't mean they're bad. Like, I have a feel like Rian Johnson, for example...
People mistake simplicity for badness.
Like Rian Johnson, for example, he famously threw everything out. And, he was like, no, let's look at it at a different angle.
Yeah.
Just because an angle was used in the original saga doesn't mean it can't be used effectively again.
No.
Yeah.
Let's look at Cobra Kai, for instance. That's a modern reboot that sort of deals with some of these tropes a little bit.
Yeah.
Subverts expectations a little bit, it does.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best reboots around.
Yeah. It's pretty much the best reboot of a beloved 80s action franchise because it modernizes things and changes things.
But the characters are the same.
Yeah, it takes the characters and it developed them. It says, here they are 30 years later. This is what's happened. And this is how they introduce their ways and butt heads with the younger generation, and that doesn't happen in the new Star Wars.
But it also keeps the core rule set of the original sort of
So
series.
the character trajectories in the 30 years that have passed are reasonable.
Yeah,
it's not like Luke. In an ideal Star Wars reboot, Luke wouldn't be like, oh, the Jedi are shit.
Yeah.
Let's kill Kylo because he had a bad thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he would keep that hopeful optimism that he does in the original.
It's completely mishandled. But anyway, we keep getting away from my Palpatine point.
Doesn't matter. We're not live. We can go as long as we want.
No, it doesn't matter. But I feel like the points about Palpatine should have been a small chunk, and now we keep going off track and then coming back to Palpatine.
Okay, so back to Papa Palpatine.
Yeah. So what was I saying? He's the villain in the prequels. He's the villain in the originals. And Snoke, I guess, is set up as the villain in the sequels, but then Rian Johnson ruins that, and so now they're bringing Palpatine back. And it's like, really? Like, I know it's the Skywalker saga, and it's all, it's technically supposed to take place from episode 1 to episode 9, and supposed to be this whole journey, and it's like, but... It's so samey. It's so lazy. It's so member-berry,
I don't want to defend JJ. You know I don't.
Yeah.
But let's just look at this from JJ's perspective. He created a bad guy for the saga.
Yes.
Snoke. Now, I'm sure in his mind, Snoke was going to there was going to be a reveal about Snoke over the course of the film.
Yeah.
It was going to develop as a bad guy, and then in the climax of the third film, Snoke would be ultimately defeated by the forces of good.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But that's an assumption we can make based on storytelling.
Yeah. This is, yeah.
Now, Rian Johnson tipped the wine glass over.
Yeah.
And he killed Snoke like halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
So what's poor JJ supposed to do?
Exactly.
Again, I don't want to
No,
JJ,
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
He needs a bad guy. There's currently just Kylo, who is... He's a shitty bad guy. He's like this conflicted, angsty, not a teenager. He's a fully grown man with a teenage angst.
He's the most interesting character, and yet he's a whiny man-child who really hasn't changed since the first movie.
He's just like some guy who wants to kill Rey.
Yeah.
He's not like a villain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a villain, but he's not the villain.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, again, it's all problems with Force Awakens, but it would be interesting to see what J.J. Abrams would have done with Snoke. And I think even with him having to pick up the pieces after Last Jedi, I think one of the reasons he's brought Palpatine back is to tie in the Snoke connection. So, before Force Awakens came out and after it came out, like, there was all those rumors that Snoke was actually a clone of Palpatine or was actually a Plagueis or was actually, a secret apprentice to Palpatine or whatever. So I think... that'll definitely come into play if Palpatine is as important to the movie as they seem to be teasing that he is. So, as much as this movie is going to be terrible and as much as I would hate it, I'm going to assume that at some point they're going to introduce the Palpatine clones and they're going to say Snoke was a deformed clone who either went out on his own and started the First Order or was actually under the control of Palpatine the whole time. And that's why he was able to amass this giant army, because he had the support of the Empire and the power of the Emperor.
How convenient.
Yeah, it's all really really bad, and I hope it's not true. But I guess it ties into the...
It's the easiest.
Yeah, it ties into the laziness, and it ties into the fan fiction feelings that these movies give off.
Even the title, man, The Rise of Skywalker. Like, is that a real... Did someone actually sit there and people that's such a great idea?
It's like the poster. It's like...
man.
Like that's a fan-made poster, right? Nah, looks like it's real. Like, everything in these movies just looks like a fan jerk-off.
It's just Disney authorized fan fiction.
Yeah. So, yeah, like, it's like we have Palpatine's behind it all. No, Snoke's actually, the new bad guy. No, Palpatine's actually behind him. It reminds me of the new James Bond movies where they introduce Quantum. And they're like, Dominic Green's this important player in the Quantum organization. And then they introduce Silva, and they're like, he's actually behind it all. He's the big bad. He's the one controlling everything. He's the one out for revenge and who had the master plan. And then they got the rights to Spectre back, and they got the rights to Blofeld back, and they're like, actually, Blofeld was behind the guy who was behind the guy who was behind the guy.
Spoilers.
you're a bit late on that. But and it's like who cares? Like it's like I'm actually the big bad who is behind the big bad. You know, I'm the actual architect of all the evil plans that these other evil guys were doing. Quantum is actually just a small branch of Spectre. Like it's so poorly done.
You wait till the rise of the Skywalker stinger where Plagueis makes an appearance.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised.
I was behind it all along.
So like I wouldn't be surprised if they're like Palpatine was behind it all the whole time, and the First Order is actually just the Empire part.
Like Scooby-Doo taking off a mask.
He's a Force ghost who takes off his mask and is actually a physical person who then takes off their mask and is actually a Force ghost. But yeah, we went on a pretty wild tangent there with Palpatine and lots of other stuff. But I think that wraps up for that Palpatine theories. It's all theories, but it ties into the how bad they've mishandled it and they clearly didn't care about the legends before, so why would they care about them now?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would they introduce the clones?
There's that whole thing about the Palpatine clones with the tanks.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing about how Palpatine kind of came back because of the...
And people, again, like with Last Jedi and like with Force Awakens, people are using the legends to justify the poor decisions made in these new movies. And it's like, nah, they're bad. Like, there was bad stuff in Legends. Some of it was really good, but some of it was really bad. And just
why
because at one point...
shit things from Legends.
Exactly.
And I know technically they're keeping... Thrawn, but we haven't seen him.
Hey, nobody ever really dies.
Yeah, but my point
nobody's ever really gone.
Don't tell me you're going to keep Thrawn and then don't use him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, that's the thing is because now it's Disney and they have this empire. They have this empire of TV and books and video games. It's like they're very much going in the. We'll keep the legends sort of, for our TV and our cartoons and our books and our comics and video games, yeah. But it's like when the movies come out and it's like those are the sort of things that have to be new and original, even though they're not. It's just everything's mishandled. So yeah, like the end of the trailer or teaser trailer comes up with the words "the end of the Skywalker saga."
Oh, good.
And it's like just.
Ended already. Jesus.
Finally, it's finishing.
It's pulled me out of my misery.
Yeah.
To quote the mother of Tony Soprano, "Just kill me now. Why won't you let me die?"
Yeah. That's a sentiment I can stand behind.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like seriously, just I would feel more optimistic if they ended it and just had a fresh slate. They're like, okay, so this exists, but how about we pick up 80 years later?
Well, I mean, we'll talk about this at the end, but they've got a plan. It's a bad plan, but they've got a plan for the future of the Star Wars movies. But yeah, so Kathleen Kennedy has said this is the last of the Skywalker saga, episodes 1 to 9. That's a self-contained saga, even though there are only 3 good movies in that saga. And only 3 movies that make sense, and also 3 movies that have never technically been released on home video, or DVD or Blu-ray, I should say. VHS technically exists, but you guys know what I mean. I think at this point, people know the special editions, for me, do not exist. The versions of the original Star Wars that are canon in the new Disney saga are not what is canon in my mind, and what should be canon. But anyway, yeah, these characters in this world aren't interesting. They haven't been developed or explored well enough. So we're at the end of the saga. The trilogy is going to end. The saga is going to end. And it's like, well, we don't care about Rey. We don't care about Finn. We don't care about Poe.
Certainly don't care about Porgs.
Yeah, it's like there's really nothing to take away from these movies. The prequels are horrible. They're disgustingly terrible. But people generally like Darth Maul. He's kind of cool.
He persisted.
He's poorly written and poorly handled, but he's kind of people. I guess kind of like, the double-edged lightsaber. That's kind of cool.
That persisted.
Queen Amidala was all right.
Not really, but
she was all right.
Her dresses were nice in the first movie.
Whether we like it or not, people remember Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, but I'm saying the prequels were just lowest level of dog shit, but some of it persisted, even though maybe it shouldn't have. and some of that has led to some pretty bad choices in the future films. But like, at least there was something going on there. These movies, it's like, there's TIE fighters, there's stormtroopers, there's lightsabers.
There's no real plot.
It's like all that stuff was original trilogy. Like, there's no new stuff. Like, the new characters aren't interesting. So it's like,
it's all, what
was the point of it?
But it doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't go anywhere.
The new movies, it's all character drama. Nothing actually happens.
Yeah.
Like, the universe gets reset at the end of every
but also
film.
the characters get reset.
Yeah.
Like, the development always just keeps getting reset. So it's like...
with this new trilogy, the only good thing that Rian Johnson... Like I said, the only good thing that happens in the trilogy is potentially getting retconned in this one.
Yeah.
So that is made redundant.
Yeah, so it's like I said, like, 9 movies, 42 years... Really, it's just those 3 original movies that are the only ones that have
any good.
The lasting effect and have the interesting world and characters and were any good.
And Disney thinks they're shit.
Exactly, and this all ties back into my point of, like, Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy was so impactful and so powerful, and it had a ripple effect on all of pop culture. Even if you've never seen Star Wars, you know about it. You've felt its presence.
What a Jedi is.
Yeah, you've felt its presence in your daily life at some point. And I think that's one of the reasons these new Star Wars movies and the prequels were terrible. It's because they're made in a world where Star Wars is God. It's like making a religious movie at this point. It's like making a religious propaganda. Those movies,
the Scientology documentaries.
Yeah, it's like they're no longer good movies and good storytelling. It's like they're no longer just fun adventure movies. They're sacred pop propaganda,
sacred money makers.
Yeah, they're watch the Scientology Network, which I know Callum's a fan. Watch the Scientology Network. It's literally 24 hours of jerking itself off and self-referencing and propaganda. And that's what these new Star Wars films are. They're not films. They're propaganda.
Like I said, there's no real story to it.
There's no story.
How can they be movies?
It's all based on the spirit of the originals.
How can they be
which
movies?
live on in the culture and live on in people who grew up watching them, but don't actually mean anything to the people making these new films. These people don't understand them.
How can you have a story when characters don't develop and the story never goes anywhere?
Exactly.
It's just like you said, you just look at a lightsaber and it's like, oh, Star Wars. And then a few minutes later, there'll be like an AT-AT.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, an at. And then they're like, oh, look, Star Wars. You know what I mean? It's just images on the screen to get people being like, I remember that. That's cool.
Like, there's nothing new here. There's nothing to sink your teeth into. There's nothing interesting. There's nothing that's more than surface level. So, yeah, can't wait for these to end.
You know what? I will be honest, though. Once it's all finished and they're all on Blu-ray or streaming services, I might watch them back to back just to see how... No, as a coherent... I'm sure we'll probably do it together. Just watch all 3 of them back to back to see how it feels.
It won't feel good. They won't be seamless.
No, they clearly, the prequels and the original trilogy don't match up. So you can imagine the original trilogy and the new movies not matching up.
Maybe I won't. Depends how sick Rise of the Skywalker makes me feel.
Oh god, it's gonna be bad.
I'm sorry, The Rise of... See, that title, it's gonna throw me every time. The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like we're at the 3rd in a trilogy, we're at the final 9th film in a saga, and it's like there's nothing to be explored or built upon.
Or too much, depending on how you look at it.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, the way they mishandle it, they could go in any direction. And at this point, any direction they go into is going to be bad. So there's nothing in the movie that people want to see. After the Last Jedi, even if you liked it, you saw everything there was to see. There's nothing left. Kylo's been defeated twice in a trilogy. Rey's...
He's going to get defeated again?
Yeah, Rey's the most powerful character in
Star Wars
trilogy.
History.
Yeah.
Like she's got nothing to learn. Well, that's what I don't understand. what can they possibly teach her that she doesn't know? She does the backflips.
At the end of the
she
movie,
knows how to lightsaber battle. She lifts rocks.
At the end of the movie, she's going to defeat Kylo for the third straight time.
Like, I mean,
there's no build up. There's no.
She's going to bitch slap Palpatine and all of his epic sort of.
No. Callum already said that Luke's going to Force Ghost Palpatine while Rey fights Kylo in the physical world.
We talked about this. We talked about this in Last Jedi. Unless I'm mistaken,
this is some fan fiction bullshit. That's probably going to be. It's probably true.
Unless I'm mistaken, lifting rocks was quite a difficult feat for a young Jedi.
Yeah.
So, but
even Yoda had a hard time lifting the X-wing out of the swamp.
So what I'm saying is
not a hard time, but it took some effort. And Rey's just like, whoop,
how can they possibly teach her when she already does everything?
Yeah, exactly. It's the problem with the Force Awakens. It's one of the problems with the Last Jedi is she has nowhere to go.
Unless, and God, please don't let this be true. When she says when they say to her, "There's 1,000 generations in you, you know everything," unless she wasn't born and she's another space Jesus.
That's the speculation that when Force Awakens came out, it's like, well, people were defending it by saying the reason she's so powerful, the reason she knows everything, the reason it's called Force Awakens is because she's some sort of midichlorian baby made by Palpatine or whoever. She's some sort of Force. Being, and that it's awakened in her, and now she's the most powerful, which is the dumbest, stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's fan fiction bullshit. It's midichlorian bullshit.
No religious.
Yeah. It's like
that was a religious. It was like a Christ-like thing about Anakin.
Yeah,
like,
that's so dumb.
Leave that kind of religious stuff out of Star Wars.
It's like, I mean, there's some religious aspects to the Jedi,
but Eastern influences. But I'm talking about the Judeo-Christian.
The way George Lucas introduced all that Chosen One prophecy bullshit was just terrible. Especially when Vader is not the Chosen One. He's a bad guy. He was a good guy who got corrupted, turned to a bad guy. And Luke is not the son of the Chosen One, the most powerful Jedi. Luke is not powerful because his father is... I mean, he is powerful because his father's powerful, but it's like, he even says the Force runs strong in our family, but like that's not why he was powerful. He's powerful because, he believed in himself, and that's what the original movie is about. Like we were saying at the start of the show, it's about the farm boy who turns into a knight. And Last Jedi could have been interesting if Rian Johnson was smarter than he thought he was, who was actually, and actually did a good job of saying, and all the Skywalkers aren't that important. You don't have to be a Skywalker to be powerful. Rey is a nobody and she can be powerful. But he handled it in the worst way possible, and he also handled it in the second movie after J.J. Abrams set up in the first movie that all this mystery box bullshit, So... it's just so many problems. They run so deep that we could talk for 3 more hours just on the teaser. And this is kind of why we took this whole time to talk about the teaser. Or I took the whole time to talk about the
wait
teaser.
till they release the full trailer.
Yeah, and then the movie itself. The movie review for Rise of Skywalker. Well, I mean,
quite honestly,
I think 6 hours at minimum will probably. We did 4 hours on Last Jedi, and I wanted to do more, but there was too many limitations.
So many movies are going to get displaced. My personal opinion on the way we should handle it is maybe not talk about the Star Wars in the live segment, and then do an hour every week.
Honestly,
because that way we cover more movies.
Honestly, I think we should ignore all other new releases, or we should do mini reviews of the new releases
in the first 15 minutes, and then take 45 to Star Wars,
and then release them as separate episodes.
Yeah, fair enough.
But anyway, so it's weird that this is the end of the Skywalker saga, but like we were saying, it hasn't even started yet.
Yeah,
the 2 new movies haven't really set anything up.
Do anything.
Everything's been rebooted, restarted.
Yeah, we saw some pretty stuff on screen, but nothing happened.
No, nothing really happened. So it's like we were saying, it's like they have to set up a lot in the last movie just to finish it off. Like the movie has to be 50% flashbacks just to make any sense. It's stuff we should have been seeing in The Force Awakens. Stuff they're introducing now, It doesn't make any sense. Like, how can it be the end of 9 movies if we haven't even gotten to the end of this arc?
But yeah, the arcs have gone nowhere, effectively.
Yeah. It's like we're saying, the original movies are the only good ones. It's because the arc starts in the first movie and ends in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
You can expand upon that, but they clearly screwed that up. So now, at this point, that's it. That's the end. The end of the Star Wars movies will always be Return of the Jedi. And for me, who's someone who hates the prequels and doesn't consider them canon, the original, the start of the saga will be the original Star Wars.
Yeah,
Not even A New Hope. The original Star Wars.
That's what I said earlier. I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, these new films are for people who, to me, they feel like they're for people who think the original Star Wars is boring. Do you know what I mean?
Look,
it's like and I know they're not boring.
No.
But like they're for people who want flashy stuff. They want like porgs.
Yeah,
they want all this crazy shit.
We talked about it at length in the Last Jedi review, which I'll end up re-uploading. But I think most people who still listen to the show have heard it. But it's like, it's for people. It's like I said, Star Wars is so ingrained in the pop culture that even people who don't like Star Wars or haven't seen them, they know about them. Our friend Julian, I use an example. He's never really seen Star Wars, doesn't really like Star Wars, but he comes with us and he sees the new all the new movies, including Solo and Rogue One.
Yep.
Like, he comes on the opening night and he's like, wow, and he gets popcorn, and he watches it and he likes it, and then he forgets about it. It's like, these new movies are kind of like that. It's for people who don't really like Star Wars, or who love Star Wars but don't really understand it.
They just want a spectacle.
Yeah, or people, even it's for people who love it as much as we do. But it's like, it's now, like I said, it's propaganda. It's not actually about the storytelling or the characters. It's about the pew pew laser guns. It's about the TIE fighters. It's like,
it's high octane.
It's about the member.
Because if you look at the original Star Wars wasn't slow, but it took its time.
Yeah.
So if you look at these new movies, and they're very kind of go.
The original movie in modern standards is too slow for a lot of people, and I think that's a problem, because if you watch it, it's fantastically paced. It's fantastically made. The structure of that movie is mwah.
Who didn't he win? Which film won an editing Oscar?
The original.
Yeah, like
because it was a mess, and then the editors came in, including George Lucas's wife at the time, and were like, this is a mess, and just like reshaped it, and it really saved that movie. It could have been a disaster. And yeah, you watch it now, and it's just mind-blowingly well made. But people look back on it, not just young people, older people as well, look back on it and say, it's too slow, it's quaint, the special effects are wobbly. It's like, no, you're misunderstanding and it's like I said in the Last Jedi review and the Force Awakens reviews that I did, like, when you compare, like, on its own, Star Wars is legendarily good. When you compare it to the new films, relatively, it is godlike. It is like the way original trilogy is structured and paced, and in the way characters are introduced and developed, just from a filmmaking standpoint, is just next level great. When you look at the new movies, and it's just like running and yelling, and it's so like,
imagine being I don't know, we'll just say a 10-year-old child who doesn't give a shit about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine putting them through that? The original, they don't care. They want now. They want big explosions. They want them now.
A lot of kids probably find those movies too slow.
That's what the new movies give you.
That's actually another reason why the prequels have become increasingly more popular, is because kids who grew up with them, or kids growing up now, the prequels are still really terrible and poorly paced and poorly made, but they're just more modern. They look modern.
Our friend Andrew, he claims and has always claimed to unironically love the prequel movies over the original saga.
Yeah. Because for him,
there's more going on.
It's his childhood. He probably connects that with his childhood.
Yeah, but also I think for him, he doesn't really care about the characters or the lore or the story. He likes when they flip and do martial arts with swords, you know, which is kind of what the prequels
were about.
Yeah. Well, and trade negotiations, which didn't make any sense and were really boring. But yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, it's kind of, I think Callum was kind of getting to this point as well. It's like The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, they take place in about a week.
Yeah.
Or maybe even less, maybe even a few days.
Oh my god, yeah.
So it's like, not only do they reboot themselves every 5 seconds and there's no character development or development in the world, it's like the first two movies in this trilogy are pretty much
48 hours roughly.
Yeah, maybe 72. Like, that's it. It's like they pretty much should be one movie, and then there should be a middle movie, and then the last movie in the saga should be the fourth movie.
Which makes the rate at which Rey gets to grip with her powers even more of a crime.
She goes from not knowing the Force at all to being like a wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it's like, and
in less than a week.
This last movie, apparently, I don't know if it's confirmed, but apparently it takes place a year after The Last Jedi.
So how powerful is she going to be?
Yeah, so the first two movies take place in a couple of days. Nothing means anything. Rey is the most powerful being ever to grace the screen. Then we cut forward a year. It's like, well, at this point, like, we haven't really seen anything. Like, this should be the middle movie in the trilogy, right?
Yeah.
You know, like the Force Awakens and Last Jedi, if they take place so together, nothing really happens. I mean, maybe that should be the first movie, and Rise of Skywalker should have been the second movie, and then there should be number 10 should have been the end to the saga, you know?
I mean, I don't like these movies.
It's so poorly managed.
But, like, I don't like these movies, obviously, but why does it have to be a trilogy? Why can't they say we're making 4 movies? They're all connected to each other.
I mean, I think ending at episode 10 would be, like, a nice number.
round it off.
Yeah.
But, like, why can't they say the story we haven't... They could even be straight up and be like, look, we made some mistakes and the story isn't fully told as we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So we're going to have an extra movie to tie everything together in what we feel is a neat bow, which we would hate.
Yeah.
But still, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a trilogy just because the others are a trilogy, but it rhymes.
I think if that happened, I don't think we would be that upset if they came out and said, look, we need to tie everything together.
After Last Jedi was so divisive and people started feeling fatigue over this trilogy and started being like, started saying, like, we're not really interested in seeing where it goes. For them to make 2 more movies, I think that's starting to
dangerous.
Push it out, you know, like they did it with Harry Potter and they did it with, I think, Twilight and a few other those teen like movies where they did it with Hunger Games, you know. It's like they drag the last movie out for 2.
And Harry Potter.
That's what I said at the start. Yeah. And they drag those movies out for maximum profits, and it just starts to feel tired. And I think at this point, you know, after Force Awakens, people might have been down for 4 movies, but after Last Jedi, people are just like, please just finish it.
Yeah, not me.
Yeah. I mean, after Force Awakens, I was like, never again. I don't want any more of these. But, you know, like, I think generally the overall consensus...
Oh, no, remember, let's not forget. Let's not be hypocrites here. We were tentatively optimistic.
No, see, look...
Because of Rian Johnson.
Look, I thought... Yeah, but
so we hated Force Awakens, and then we were like, "Oh, Rian Johnson!"
Because of Rian Johnson's previous track record, like his previous films before Last Jedi, I was like, The Force Awakens ruined the potential for the new trilogy. But Rian Johnson's someone who's a good enough writer that he can come in and fix those problems, and I think even if the movie's not good, which I didn't think it would be, I felt like he's the guy who could kind of develop the characters more and develop the world more. Boy, was I wrong.
I know.
Wow. Like, oh my God. Like, complete opposite.
He really flipped his shit, didn't he?
He definitely subverted our expectations on that.
He did, yeah.
And, I mean, the thing is, it's such a disgrace because he can do better than that.
Yeah.
He did Brick, he did Looper, he's done some really good films.
That's my point. He's like, he's a really good writer. He's a really interesting director.
So why did he have to come at Star Wars like
Because he thought he was smarter than he actually was. He thought he was being a smarty pants by saying, ha, everyone loves Star Wars, even people who don't like Star Wars like Star Wars. Well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to subvert expectations.
They think they know what Star Wars is? Yeah, I'll show them what Star Wars is.
I'm going to make things, you know, darker and cooler and more hip and, you know, and it's like, no, man, you screwed it up. You made a bad movie by any standards.
Fucking car chase in space.
I just want to point out,
car chase in
I remember looking at you when we were watching The Last Jedi, and you were leaned back in your chair with the shittiest look on your face, and you did this. You just shook your head slightly as if to say, no.
I couldn't believe it.
I remember you just looked so
the movie, the first minute of the movie opens with the Your Mama joke.
Yeah, I know.
I was like,
that's what we're talking about.
What are they doing?
One thing we were going to talk about. Did we mention how it's basically slapstick comedy?
That's my next point. So all the trailers, Force Awakens,
Last
Jedi,
The Rise of Skywalker.
You know, like all the trailers have been like super serious and you know, cool music and cool narration, voiceover. And like, you know, really epic shots and special effects and it's just awe-inspiring, you know.
Yep.
But when the movies themselves, both Force Awakens and Last Jedi, and even Solo, Rogue One has some of these elements, but not as much. They're slapstick comedies. They're wacky, zany comedies of failure and dumb people being, yelling and being meta. And
how can there be a Yo Mama joke in Star Wars?
Yeah, and it's just
why?
like,
because it's Disney.
I don't.
Yeah, the child. No, it's the child vote.
Yeah,
it's like that kind of.
This is
True.
Disney.
It's the Marvelification of Star Wars.
Disney does this with every single IP they exert
It
control
works
over.
with Marvel movies most of the time because it's appropriate to the content.
Yeah, it's appropriate, and Marvel movies take place in the modern day.
Exactly.
And
they're also better written.
Yeah, they're better overseen by
better directed.
Kevin Feige, and but it's like.
At the end of the day, that's why they're bad, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
as much
as I shit on Captain Marvel,
but I think,
do you remember I shit on Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
I did at some level enjoy Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, compared to Last Jedi, Captain Marvel is one of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In that kind of
I sounded
relatively.
I sounded salty in that review.
Yeah,
I still had a pretty good time.
Captain Marvel isn't a great movie. I have a lot of problems with it, but in terms of overall movies that we've seen, it's not bad. And when you compare it to Last Jedi, it's amazing. It'll never be that bad.
But every movie Disney puts out, we expect this sort of content from them.
Yeah, but I mean, it comes back to the point of like the trailer might be dark, the trailer might be cool and edgy. Rey flipping over the TIE fighter might be mad backflips, cool guys. What would you say? Cool guys don't.
Cool Jedis don't look at incoming ships.
Yeah, okay. It's like,
but you just know in the final
movie.
cut,
there's
when
going to be
Carlo sits down in the cockpit. There's going to be a whoopee cushion. that one of the stormtroopers put under his seat.
BB-8's going to be chasing around his new little friend Dio, and
the megaphone droid is going to be blasting Beastie Boys because it's JJ.
And C-3PO, we talked about how that's going to play out with the joke with the bowcaster, and there's that dumb alien on the poster.
It's going to go at the screen.
And Finn's going to be like, "Whoa, cool lightsabers, dude!" When Rey repairs her lightsaber, and they're going to make a joke about the crystals inside it or whatever. The movie's going to be like, the people who like Last Jedi say, it's really dark and it subverts expectations, and what they do with Luke and Kylo is really cool.
It's genius.
I'm just like, the movie has your mama jokes. It has
BB-8 shooting coins.
BB-8 like shooting coins at a drunk guy who burps on him. Piloting a mech and
terrible CGI
and
Benicio, but has Benicio del Toro.
That's true. He is,
but it also has blue milk.
Oh yeah, no, was it green? Was it green?
Blue.
I think I can't remember. Who cares?
I feel like there was they tried to make a distinction where it's like slightly green. But anyway, it's like they have Luke milking the animal. Yeah, and they have that ridiculous. Tentacle woman with the big breasts.
That's what I was thinking. So they'll go,
and I'm just like, the fish monk, the fish nuns. What? Why were they in the movie?
And somehow they're connected to the Jedi.
Yeah, and like
Jedi
Rey accidentally cuts the rock and it almost falls on
Porg's
it. And
in the ship.
Yeah, Porgs. I forgot about Porgs. I blocked them from my memory because they're so terrible. Like, the trailer might be cool for Rise of Skywalker, but when the movie comes out,
it's going to be a lol fest.
It's going to be a lol fest, and not a lol fest because we won't be laughing.
Rey's going to defeat Kylo by doing the Three Stooges eye poke.
Yeah, she's going to be like, pull my lightsaber, and then when he goes to pull it, she turns it on and stabs him, and he goes, "Owie!"
Slaps him on the head.
She goes. Oh man. So unfortunately, this is distressing news that we alluded to earlier. Kathleen Kennedy has said this is the end of the Skywalker saga. Episodes 1 to 9 are the Skywalker saga. Then the Mandalorian TV show and the Rogue One prequel TV show that no one wants, and some other stuff. That's the focus now, and the movies are going to take a couple years off. How long, we don't know. Probably not too long because, money.
Yeah.
But apparently she said that there's a plan, like a 10-year plan for the new Star Wars films.
Oh, God.
And Rian Johnson, who had announced that he was going to do his own trilogy.
Our own personal Blofeld.
Yeah. I can just imagine Rian Johnson doing the
big
Dr. Evil pinky in the mouth kind of, So, and they announced Rian Johnson is going to have his own trilogy. They also announced that the Game of Thrones showrunners are going to have their own trilogy. Well, Kathleen Kennedy has said that there's a 10-year plan for the new Star Wars films that don't involve the Skywalker lineage and are separate stories to that world set in the Star Wars universe. But now they've announced that Rian Johnson and the Game of Thrones showrunners are working together on a new trilogy.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's because Ryan did such a shitty job with the script.
That would be interesting.
Because Kathleen's like, you can't be trusted.
Yeah, after The Last Jedi backlash, maybe she was like, look, the Game of Thrones guys are working on something that's not as terrible as Last Jedi.
No,
but we still want you around because apparently people like you. No, he's apparently a really nice guy. He's just really bad at making Star Wars movies. It looks like maybe they were working on separate things and
they're pooling resources.
Yeah. Or that might just be because Disney has wanted to scale back the Star Wars movies. They cancelled the Obi-Wan movie, they cancelled the Boba Fett movie.
Or let's be real, they're just like, look, Ryan, we don't trust you to do more than one fucking draft, so we're getting other writers.
Yeah.
I know.
Or
like,
maybe
seriously.
Ryan Johnson wrote the draft and then they're like, Game of Thrones guys,
Again, I know we've talked about this so many times.
Yeah.
But just again, it boggles my mind that they let I don't care how famous you are, how many incredible movies you've done, you don't do one draft of a Star Wars movie and then film it verbatim. Like, are you mentally deficient?
Yeah,
and I know that's harsh to say.
No, yeah.
But if you're running a big billion-dollar industry,
but again, it
you're
comes
in charge
down
of
to
Star Wars.
why did Kathleen Kennedy let him do that? If he wanted to do that, why did everyone read the script and go, "Wow, this is great"?
Well, but apparently Mark Hamill was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, and he was right.
Like, come on, man. More than 2 drafts minimum. I know you're some fancy writer who does Star Wars now, but do 2 drafts. Let someone oversee your draft.
Exactly.
I guarantee you JJ has a whole host of other writers. I'm assuming.
I mean, I don't know if a host is as accurate, but he had more than one draft, to be fair. Even though the movie ended up being terrible, he definitely had more than one draft.
At least he worked at it.
He co-wrote it with...
Lawrence Kasdan.
And it was based on Michael Arndt's scripts, which he was working on for a while, and which were apparently much better. And then J.J. Abrams came and screwed it all up. Yeah, so we don't know where the future of the Star Wars movies is going to go after the Skywalker saga is finished. Whether it takes place 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future, I think divorcing it from the new movies and the prequels as much as possible would be a good thing. But I think at this point, the prequels damaged the Star Wars franchise so much, and the new movies damaged the saga so much that any movies, it's like the Man of Steel problem that we were talking about. Any movies that come from Disney are going to be tainted, are going to be based on a rotten foundation. Even though they use they use the legacy of the original movies, they definitely hold on to that for nostalgia and money-making purposes. They don't understand it and they don't respect it. And it's the original trilogy is only there for the name, for the respect those movies earned.
Yeah.
Throughout generations of moviegoers. So, yeah.
Can I just say...
These new movies not based on Skywalker, I'm not looking forward to them. I think Rian Johnson clearly didn't want to be stuck in that Skywalker mold, and he wanted to get away from that. That's why he did a lot of things he did. So maybe being outside of that, he might have more freedom to do what he wants, and it won't affect the original movies. But I'm not holding my breath. Like, it's not going to be good.
Can I just say, if you haven't seen the original saga, and you legally own a version of Star Wars on DVD or Blu-ray...
We kind of have to say that, but also I'm going to disagree with you. But go on.
If you legally own a version of the original saga in any media capacity, you can legally, more or less, obtain...
It's a grey area.
Yeah, you can...
mostly
obtain,
illegal. Yeah,
you can obtain versions of the original saga,
actually,
which are truer to the original spirit of Star Wars.
Yeah, in all the time we talk about Star Wars, and in all those Last Jedi and Force Awakens reviews that we did for the old show, I don't think I actually ever said, like, if you haven't seen the original
specialized,
the theatrical non-special edition versions, do yourself a favor,
give them a watch.
Like, that is Star Wars. That was what people fell in love with. That is what won the Oscars. That is what rippled throughout pop culture and movie history. The special editions are bastardized, disgusting, nonsense versions that George Lucas pulled out of his ass one day because he had the money and the power. And the prequels are the same thing, and the new movies are similarly
just Google
bastardized.
I mean, I can't. We can't. We don't want to tell you.
Yeah, we can't tell you.
Just Google it. Yeah. They're worth it.
Yeah,
they look incredible.
That is the original theatrical versions, and the despecialized versions by Hami, who's a guy who took out all the additions and tried to restore it to the original capacity. Like, those are incredible, and those is what the original Star Wars is. So yeah, I mean, I get very serious about this. It's like, that's why I do the trigger warning. It's not so much as a joke. It's like
James. It's a warning because James is being triggered.
Well, yeah, that too. But no, for listeners, because like
I'm joking.
I know we only have a couple of listeners, and I think most of them are on board with our shtick. But like, I take this seriously. I love Star Wars. I don't think people understand.
Oh no,
like,
they know.
The reason I hate the new movies and the prequels and all this Disney crap so much is because I love Star Wars, and it's just sad to see what it's become.
I mean, look, for most episodes of this show and the last show,
and
we usually have a good time.
Yeah,
we have a bit of laughs.
Our last few reviews have been pretty positive, more or less.
But it's like, I love movies. I love.
Yeah.
I watch. I mean,
but Star Wars holds a special place in all of our hearts here in the show, and we do take it seriously, and we do 95% of our whinging on this show regarding Star Wars specifically.
Yeah, because it's so poorly handled.
And there's also so many connections. Like, whenever we're talking about a sci-fi film...
But it ties into, like, I love movies. I love filmmaking. I try to watch a movie a day. If not, I binge a lot of TV. Like, movies are my life. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. If not making movies, I want to be discussing movies, podcasting. I want to... movies are like my one thing. Like, people like hiking, people like riding, cars. I love movies. That is my one thing. Like, that is my entire life.
I
live for movies.
That is your vocation.
If I went blind or deaf, like...
Deafness you can sort of deal with.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Movies, deafness is alright.
Even blind, you can have like audio descriptive and adventure podcasts. But, like, that would be a nightmare to me, Like, movies are my life. And I think what's happening to Star Wars and how it ties into filmmaking and how it ties into franchises and the general movie landscape at the moment is really one of the reasons why I get so passionate about it. So if you're a new listener, which I don't think we have many, but I will be uploading those Star Wars reviews closer to when episode 9 gets released.
And if you are a new listener, this is not a typical example of an episode. Just to be clear,
well, it kind of is.
I mean, kind of, but this is more hyper focused.
Yeah. But my point is like I think those reviews provide a lot of context. So even though this is a new show, the Tuesday review, the Man vs. Movies, the old show that we did, like those Star Wars episodes really inform how we feel about the new Star Wars films, and that's why I'll be uploading them in the lead up to episode 9, and also I'll be uploading a couple other older episodes that I think will help with context and will be good for people to revisit if they've already heard them, or to listen to the first time if they're a new listener. So yeah, I didn't think we were going to do 2 hours on the trailer. We did actually watch Pet Sematary, and we're going to talk about that.
It's all right.
But I mean, a little review. It's not bad. Pretty good. But I think next week we'll talk about Pet Sematary because we don't have anything planned next week. So yeah, tune in then. Thank you everyone for listening. Like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Review AU. Nathan, plug Sunrise Arcade for Callum and Jake.
Yes, please tune in to Sunrise Arcade live on 98.9 Northwest FM Saturday mornings at 10 p.m. and also
10 a.m.
At 10 a.m., yes. And you can also listen to the previous episodes on Shout Engine.
Yeah, our friends Callum and Jake do a video game entertainment podcast or show called Sunrise Arcade. So, yeah, check that out. Matt, our good friend, has his show at 7 p.m. on Tuesday night, and you can find his podcast. Just Google Car Talk, TORQUE. But, yeah, thank you for listening. We really do appreciate it. I know we have a couple listeners.
Every now and again, we have to get this out of our system.
Yeah, it's like
Look, you can't expect us to not talk about a Star Wars teaser for 2 hours.
And also it makes good content. How many YouTube videos did have people release of trailer breakdowns? We just did a 2-hour, not a breakdown,
ramble.
but a ramble about what this trailer means for the future of Star Wars.
Imagine if we had a visual aid like YouTube. Could you imagine?
Zooms.
But anyway, did I forget any plugs? Follow me on Instagram at Channel Drifter. I upload every time I watch a movie, so it's like a catalogue of all the movies I watch. Yeah, I already plugged the Facebook. Just Google The Tuesday Review. You can listen to the other podcasts on Shout Engine, your regular podcasting app. Or, rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes.
Hit that bell.
Yeah, ring the bell.
Yeah.
That's it. Thanks, everyone. Adios, cousins.